At this time, I'll call the meeting of the Marshall City Council to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. We have an agenda before us. I understand there's at least one change to make, and that is under item 11, the Matt Bus Garage considerations. We will add, first off, we will change item B to C, and then we will add an item B, which will be the TSP final change order. So that would be considered before C, which is the final payment application. And you do have, the council does have that final change order sheet before you. Are there any other changes to make this evening to the agenda? Okay, we'll operate under that agenda. The first item then would be to consider the approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting that was held January 27th, as well as the special council meeting that was held on February 3rd. Council has those minutes printed. Are there any corrections to note?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Larry, to approve the minutes as they have been presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 2 is a consent agenda. The consent agenda for the audience is up on the screen, as well as the viewing audience. It will be on the screen. 4 items for consideration on the consent agenda. First would be a temporary on-sale liquor license for the American Legion to be used at the National Guard Armory on March 14th. Second, a temporary on-sale liquor license for the Marshall Area Chamber of Commerce for March 5th at West Main Street. Third is consideration of the authorization for out-of-state travel for Jason Bicey. And fourth would be consideration of the approval of the bills and the project payments. And note the council that there is one additional page that was presented before us tonight on the bills. Is there any item on the consent agenda any member of the council wants removed for purposes of separate discussion?
C.
Any other item? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve A, B, and D.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Larry. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 3C is the consideration of authorization for out-of-state travel for Jason Bicey. Larry?
The only reason I asked to have this removed was when we did our budget for '09, we said that we were not going to grant travel unless there was a necessity, et cetera. And I do believe this is a necessity, but I think it's important that the people understand that this is paid for by the drug training. So, and I just wanted that to be noted, so I'd move approval of that. Correct.
Okay. So noted, and Larry made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Charlie. Discussion? If there's no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 3 is the first item on new business. This would be the consideration of the approval of the amendments to the asset transfer agreement and membership transfer agreement of the sale of the hospital to Avera. At the action that was taken at the last regular council meeting, it was part of that resolution that any changes, whether substantive or not, would come back for consideration in the council. So with that, Dennis?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and council members. In front of you are the changes that have been made to the documents. First, on the membership transfer agreement, what has been included is Article 3, which references an illustration, which is now attached as an exhibit, showing what will happen with those defeasance costs if they are more or less than anticipated. So we're showing you there's just one addition in the actual document, and then there is an exhibit attached as 3.1B. So that's the change made to the membership transfer agreement which was discussed. And then we've also included the asset transfer agreement. again, other than changing, the dates have been changed now from January to February. But the one change that does occur is on, let's note it's 3-7, and it shows that the buyer will pay any, basically closing costs or tax, whether that's deed tax or personal property tax, transfer tax. So that shows up on page 3.7. And then one that we did not catch, if you turn to page 3-10. That's the signature page, and that's to be signed by the buyer, but you'll note it said date executed by seller. And so we would change seller to buyer on that page as well. So those are the changes that are brought to your attention, and we just request affirmation that those amendments have been made pursuant to the discussions of last meeting and pursuant to the resolution previously authorizing both documents.
Thank you, Dennis. Questions for Dennis? If not, is there a motion for affirming those changes?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Mike. Discussion? Now, with discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 4, consider the adoption of the ordinance that would approve the sale of the real property of sale of the hospital to Avera. Once again, Dennis.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. The ordinance, as required by our charter, whenever we sell city-owned real property, we have to introduce an ordinance and then subsequently pass and approve that ordinance. The ordinance was introduced at the last meeting. It is now time for a review and approval of that ordinance. The ordinance is before you, and it does contain the legal description of all various parcels related to the hospital sale. I would note that there will be one small change in that ordinance. It's on the back of page 4-1 is the actual ordinance, and in section 5, there's a parenthesis referring to Exhibit A. That'll be deleted. Exhibit A is the attached legal description. Exhibit A is not the asset transfer. So we will be publishing this with that Section 5 Exhibit A reference deleted. And with that, I guess we'd ask for a motion to approve.
Okay, first, are there any questions?
I'll make that a motion.
Second.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Larry to approve the ordinance approving the sale of the city-owned real property. Discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you, Dennis, for your work on this.
Thank you. And I was going to say, for the hospital personnel, we are set to publish this immediately so that we can proceed to a closing and signature on documents later this week. So I think everything is on track for that closing.
Okay, very good. Mary, you have anything you wanted to add on this? Or? Thank you, Mary. Mike?
Dennis, just one question. You say this ordinance ready for the closing. I thought that was going to be in November.
I used the wrong word. Signature. So we will sign these documents this week.
Okay.
The actual closing on the sale, you're right, occurs in November. Pardon me. Signature later this week.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on then to agenda item number 5. This is consideration of extension of the Marshall / Legislative Associates Incorporated agreement for 2009. Ben?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll turn it over to Police Chief Rob Yant to present the request.
And Rob, whether or not you're comfortable, you have to be right in front of it, so.
Feel like Mick Jagger here.
Chew on it.
Well, yes, I am requesting that we renew the agreement that we have with Ed Kane and Legislative Associates for continued efforts on behalf of the Merit Center. You know, I think with the funding, especially at the federal level that's going on, I think it's important to have that presence. I think he has a deep experience, and I think he's distinctly the least expensive lobbyist that we would be available, and he has a experience working on our behalf and with this issue. So I think if it were just state funding, you know, I think we could probably work on that, although even there, because of the distance, it's a challenge, but especially with the potential for the federal funding, I think that it's worthwhile investment for us to engage him. And this would also, it's based on a relationship also that he's got with the chamber on behalf of their transportation committee too.
Mike?
I shouldn't be the one asking this question, being on the merit board. However, I don't recall that we budgeted this in '09. So where is the money going to come from? It does not say where the money is coming from.
It wasn't budgeted. It, I guess, my hope would be that it would come out of the Mayor Council contingency fund on this, but I guess I'd put that out for Ben probably to comment on.
That would be my feeling, is I think that would be an expenditure that we would put towards the Merit Center as an expense, or the other alternative would be, and we could ask Tom where it was funded last year, but the contingency fund of the mayor and council might be an alternative too. I don't know if do you know where that was expensed last year, Tom?
Well, while people are thinking about it, I guess that's one of the things I would like to see in the future, is to tell what budget it's coming from, where the money's coming from. First of all, was it in the budget? And where's it coming from? Because I don't want somebody just arbitrarily making the decision that it should be the mayor contingency fund or the 429 or whatever without the council having knowledge at least of where the funding is coming from. Second thing, I believe way back last year when we talked with Ed, we told him we wanted monthly updates. The only time we get updates from him is when it's about time for him to get a check. So we either start getting them or we stop the payments until we get them.
And this has probably been our major challenge with him. He hasn't been overly responsive. He's given us reports, but it's something where it's taken, you know, basically frequent calls and emails on my behalf to get them, and it's been probably about every other to every third month. I do think he's making contacts on our behalf, you know, which is the real thing we're paying him for, but he isn't anywhere as good on accountability as would certainly expect.
But he has agreed to do that.
Yes.
He has not fulfilled his agreement. So either he gives it to us or we hold the check.
Well,
Pretty simple.
We could tweak the agreement, I think, in a way that included that as a requirement of the agreement, and that way if he signed it, he'd have basically obligated himself to do it. So I think we could do that.
Personally, I don't care if it's just a paragraph. At least to let us know he's still alive.
He could take and include a little paragraph each month as he sends you a bill.
That's right.
That's all it would take. Put it on there.
He doesn't even send a bill. We
No.
just pay him every month.
Well,
Send an email then.
yeah.
I don't care.
So, okay, now we'll get back to my question. Where is it coming from?
I think I think you're accurate. We will clarify that in the fiscal impact section in the future, that if it wasn't budgeted, we'll clarify that it wasn't formally budgeted and where it would come from. I would say it will I would expense it to the Merit Center as a direct expense to the Merit
Well,
Center.
that was my next thing. I don't like dipping into the mayor contingency fund the first meeting in February. We got a long time between now and the end of December. And I believe there's only about $40,000 in that, or 50.
But to clarify what you said, why don't you say that again? You're suggesting to expense it to the Merit Center.
That would be correct. It'd be an expense and, you know,
That,
we don't have.
that'd be appropriate. It's a matter of checking that line item balance, you know, as
And it
far
might
as-
mean you go into it might mean it impacts the expenses that we didn't plan for in the Merit Center Fund, but that it would be something that we would plan to carry as an expense going forward. And if there was a loss in the account, we just add that to that in that account. I think it wasn't an intentional oversight, I think, on the budget request. It was one of those that slipped through the cracks on the contract to set up again for 2009. And it has been valuable. In fact, I think it's his understanding of the federal process, I think, has opened doors to us to understand some of the transportation items that we're now pursuing too. So he did kind of have some incidental benefits as well. And I think, like Rob said, I do think it's a valuable contract to get into. It's unfortunate we didn't formally plan for it in the budget, but you know, I think an expense like this is something that's manageable, that we would make an amendment and mark it down as a budgetary amendment for this year, expense it to the appropriate account to the Merit Center Fund, and then work to make up that expense in some other way in the future. And if you're not comfortable with that, I mean, that'd be the recommendation, I guess.
Does the Merit Fund have any reserves at all, Tom? No reserves at all in the Merit Fund.
About 45,000 in negative.
Yeah, it's basically, when put the budget together, it was based on predominantly covering the utility expenses and the direct expenses that it incurs on an annual basis. There is some revenue offset for that from the leasing of the classroom and the facility, but well,
I have to believe this year the deficit is going to be fairly amount larger than that because we weren't collecting any money from Minnesota West for rent on the facility.
Mm-hmm.
So when nothing's coming in, it's pretty hard to keep your head above water.
yeah,
Right.
the costs haven't been substantial out there. Like I said, it's predominantly utilities and some things like that, but
Maybe, Rob, just for the benefit of the public that might listen to this tape, you could tell of some of the benefits that he's given us over this last year that we've paid him $18,000. Because I'm sure they're not aware of it, even though we got it in our packet.
or it's basically where he's had contact with us on our behalf, both at the state legislature and then at the federal. This last year, we received the allocation from the state government for the $300,000 for the development of the Merit Center. We are dealing, and that's one of the things he's working with us now, is to clarify the language, because the award was for pre-design, and we need more than that to be covered, but we were allocated $300,000, and no one from our senator to representative has any doubt that we're going to receive that. So that's $300,000 that he was a major participant in as far as us getting that. He has made contacts for us at the federal level and was the one who suggested and made the direction as far as where to make the application for the workforce development at the federal government with the for funding of the Merit Center. And we didn't make the initial first round of funding choices, but apparently there's some likelihood that will be available in the future and will be something we'd continue to explore. And that was fairly substantial. And then our long-term development, where he's made contacts, has been both in terms of some of the ethanol development through the Department of Agriculture, and then some for driving, which would be 2010 in Department of Transportation, which is, again, federal. So it's mainly contacts and suggestions at this point, but there's potential, like I said, we've gotten the allocation of 300,000, and at the federal level, there's both the potential but also substantial competition for dollars at that level. But for us to be in the process, none of us are able to go to DC or really have the expertise to pursue that. So that's where he's very useful.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mike?
I have to say that I think Ed does a good job for the city. I mean, I've been at St. Paul when we've had meetings with some of the leadership. He knows everyone. I mean, he knows where to go and how to go about it. I just don't like the sloppy way we handle this internally. So it's no criticism of Ed Kane.
Well, it's Ed that didn't follow through with his reporting. It sort of been an effort to bring the mountain to Mohammed with getting him to report. But I think if we put these types of things in the contract, that may make it stronger.
I'll make a motion that we enter into the extension of that contract, and we're going to bill it to the Merit Center and work out how we're going to pay for it later, I guess.
Okay, motion by Charlie. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Larry. Discussion?
Yes, how can you pay a bill out of a fund there's no money? A zero. Can't be charged to the merit. Well, it can be charged to it, but that's not where the revenue's coming from.
But
Identify where the revenue's going to come from.
And
you want to clarify, you're suggesting
expensing it to the account,
and
and basically what we would do is either carry, at the end of the year, if that means if we have an operational loss, the loss would be bigger, and long-term, we have to come up with a solution to make that more of a manageable fund to get it back on course to deal with that, or I guess the council really needs to get direction on what to do with that negative cash balance in that fund going forward. But, hopefully by adding in some of these props, we can attract more people like that we're bringing it in. Otherwise, the alternative is if that gets bigger, you potentially write off that loss by doing a transfer or something in the future as well. So
I guess what I was trying to get to with this, in the past, we've been pretty careful early in the year of not using mayor contingency funds. We say basically it comes out of budget, out of high. So if it were the police department, it gets charged out of, because they do have revenue. At the end of the year, then, Tom, as we've gone through those, and if there was enough money in that police budget, it stayed in the police budget. If it wasn't, then it came out of the mayor contingency. So that was all part of Tom's little work at the end of the year, and I guess I'd like to see that continue.
But what you're suggesting, though, is not in opposition to that. What you're suggesting is that this is an expense that's attributable to the Merit Center, so we track it that way, too. So you're in agreement on
But
that?
there's two sides. It comes from one place and it gets spent for something.
Right.
We've only identified the one side. Okay, call the question.
Okay, Mike called the question. All those in favor of extending the contract with Legislative Associates for the work on behalf of the Merit Center, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 6 is consider the approval of the nightcap grant. Rob, I'll turn to you.
Yes, this is a small traffic safety grant that we've got that's been awarded to us that will help us continue with our traffic enforcement efforts, and is predominantly to fund overtime. When we do traffic enforcement beyond our normal duties is typically involves overtime, and so if we can offset it to a revenue source like this, it allows us to do it without some of the constraints we've had when we were looking at a general control for overtime. There's no match on this, and basically the only requirement is the reporting and administration of the grant.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Rob? If not, is there a motion to approve the nightcap grant?
I would move to approve the nightcap grant. Anytime you can get free money to make our city a safer place, I can see no reason why we would not support that. So moved.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Dan. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item number.
Thank
Anything more on that, Rob?
No,
Okay.
yes, thank you.
Agenda item number 7 is consider the approval of the purchase of equipment for the chemical assessment team. 2 items that are under consideration. One is a decontamination system and generator, and the other is to purchase a SCEL3 system and cable reel. Rob?
Yes, this is equipment for the chemical assessment team as a part of the broader state team. And so it's funds that is federal terrorism funds awarded to the state teams. So it's allocated to the city on behalf of its function as a state response team. And they're making a strong effort to standardize the equipment among all the teams. And we have a very minimal decontamination tent now with no heating or water heating capability. And when we wrote that grant, we put in to fund this. This is comparable with what another team has and other teams likely to get. And so we're recommending that this be something that we get to be able to add to the team's resources.
So in summary, the purchase cost is provided entirely by the federal grant.
Yes.
The purchase would be done by the city using that federal grant, and the items purchased would be the property of the city.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's federal funds for equipment that would be the property of the city, remain the property of the city. The only obligation for the future would be if, say, the team's disbanded and there was a hazmat event, and assuming that, it wasn't 40 years from now, if the equipment was still functional, they might make a request to be able to use it. But it's our equipment and for our use.
Mike?
Have we spent any other portion of the 75,000 to date?
No.
Secondly, I guess I feel a little, this seems to go against our purchasing policy to some extent. We finally contacted the second supplier but don't have any information, so we're just going to go ahead and approve
Well,
with a quote from one.
we did get a quote from, part of it is that most of these allocate 1 or 2 suppliers to sell the specific item. And so what we did price were 2 different tents were the main ones used by the other team. And so we did price the second tent, but that was an entirely different unit and substantially more expensive and had a more complicated operating system, so we didn't put that in. So we did get 2 prices, one on the exact system that was used by St. Cloud. The second one was a comparable system, and it ended up coming in slightly more expensive. But yes, we did just have 2 prices.
So you did get,
We got the second price, and it came in higher. There are a number of manufacturers, but this isn't something where there's a large number of manufacturers. And also there's some difference, like the difference between the 2 types of tents that the teams use, where it's not entirely the same system. So you can talk about what they do, but like the one has a external hard support system, and the second one has an air pump system to serve as the shell for it. And so it's differences like that that make it a little harder to look at the different systems because they're not entirely apples and apples. I mean, they're not totally different. They all do the same thing, but some of them do it in different ways. So,
Rob, is this off the state bid?
no, it's not.
Okay.
So it isn't available as a state bid item. I don't think it's a high volume type of purchase, but like I said, it is being used by another team and will likely be used by another team. They were wanting to get ours and take a look at it before they bought their own.
Rob, for the audience and especially the television audience, could you just briefly explain the type of application or the type of event when this camera and reel would be used?
Sure, the camera and reel are basically intended to go into a hazardous materials environment, and what you oftentimes end up doing is you have an entry team of 2 people suited up in an SCBA, and they go in and then have at least 2 people back up, and they sometimes are dependent on the, if it's an industrial setting, you might have the local maintenance people or their response personnel sort of guiding you through it. And with what we're doing now, they basically do it over the radio by description. And what this camera system would do is basically allow the people remaining outside of the hot zone to actually see what the team's saying. Because part of the other thing we're trying to do is make minor, what they call mitigation, minor adjustments that could seal or end the leak. And sometimes it's like turning the green knob and not the orange knob. And so if you can, if you'd envision, like the refrigeration plant for Schwann's, going in there where they're not familiar with it, and then trying to make sure they make the correct entry and responses. Right now, everything is just done by communications over the radio, and that's garbled because they're in a chemical suit, and this way, the EntriLink system would actually provide a camera that can go into a hazardous environment, and so it would allow people in the command trailer to see what's going on and more reliably report and guide the entry team.
Thank you.
Are you looking to do both these under one?
Well, I think we can handle this under one motion.
I would make a motion to authorize purchase of the decontamination system generator and the SCEL3 system and cable reel. Coming out of the grant that we received from the federal fund, and seeing that both of these units are compatible with the surrounding area, so if we ever have a major, everybody would be familiar with the operation of that. So move on both, A and B.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Dan. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8 is, Rob, did you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Agenda item number 8 is to consider the final change order and acknowledgement of the final payment application for the 2008 street reconstruction projects, and there's numerous of those.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You can take a look at the list of projects. One thing different about this set of projects is it was all done under one fund. We have several different special assessment districts, and you can see that there are some mostly plus change orders, one minus change order within them. One comment I want to make to you is that the entire amount of the final recommended contract amounts fell within the special assessment amounts of the project. So our recommendation is to approve the change orders for the individual projects that are paid for under the one fund. If you have any questions, I'd certainly take them.
Okay, questions for Glenn?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Mike Reynolds to approve the change orders for the projects that would include Arbor Court, Noose Lane, Morningside Circle, Horizon Circle, Sunset Circle, Emerald Court, and DeShepherd Street. Discussion on that motion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item number 9, consider the authorization to enter into a professional services agreement with TKDA for the airport development. Glenn?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Lyle Kratzky is here from TKDA, and I asked him to be present because I don't know if all of you have met Lyle before. This is a professional services contract that comes up every 5 years or so. It can come up every 3 to 5, or when certain improvements have been completed at the airport. And so it's a process that the Airport Commission goes through periodically for professional services agreements. The agreement that we have with TKDA is a fairly open-ended agreement in that it allows us to pretty much do what we want to do for professional services at the airport. And I asked Lyle to come to really show you maybe a little history of what they've done. Lyle, how many years have you been here? Probably 16 years with the Marshall Airport. And so he's got some history. And when we did the request for proposals from the engineering firms, that was one of the primary considerations that the Airport Commission wanted to address, was not only the firm, but who within the firm is representing the city in its discussions with FAA and MnDOT Aeronautics, because we've had such a good relationship specifically with Lyle. And there were some rumors of retirement, death, or quitting or something of the individual, and he explained to us that no, that's probably, that is not the case, and he would be with us for some time. However, if in fact he did leave the firm, the contract allows us to contract with any other firm that we would want to, even within the context of this agreement. What we've done is we've identified the items in our capital improvement program and our airport layout plan that we wish TKDA to address in the next few years. But also included in that is an individual contract with TKDA for every individual project that we do, like the airport extension, the runway extension, or crosswind extension, or development of a certain area. So with that as a little background, Lyle, I'd like you to come forward for a little bit, get close to the microphone so they can hear you, and maybe even take it with you. We've got a little, you can use this if you want to. Okay, you've got that, so turn the microphone to you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, Council, I didn't want to get into this, but this, the Airport Commission addressed our statement of qualifications, and I called Glenn and asked, well, how did that go? And he says, well, I heard you were quitting. Well, long story short, I went through this at some length with the Airport Commission last week. I've been doing this for 36 years. Some years ago, I figured, well, that 55 would be nice, 60. No, I'm here for the duration, and I think the staff and the Airport Commission are satisfied that no, I'm here for you. Said I spoke with the Airport Commission last week. Glenn asked me to attend tonight's meeting. I've not addressed the council before. I've been here on environmental hearings, met with the county, townships, worked extensively with city staff and with the Airport Commission, but nice to meet you, and you can put a face on a name. Also, maybe provide a little bit of background on the airport, as Glenn suggested. Some of you may not be involved in airport issues on a routine basis, and so I can give you a little Airport 101, and I won't take up too much of your time here. At TKDA, we have 30 full-time airport professionals. I certainly don't do all the work for Marshall. I do a small percentage of it, but I am the project manager, the client contact for your work out here. I've been at TKDA for 30 years. Before that, I was with Federal Aviation Administration. As I said, I've been personally involved in Marshall's Airport for the past 16 years. Some of the things we've done in 95 and 96, and we're missing part of the airport up here, but in 95 and 96, we built this parallel taxiway there. We overlaid both of the runways and reconstructed much of the apron area in the terminal area. In 01, 02, all the work was done down here in the existing terminal area. You put up 2 new hangars, a new arrival departure building, actually relocated 3 T hangars there, entrance roadway, auto parking, I said, and added some more apron pavement. Also some utilities, new sewer and water and communications to the terminal area. As you can see, it's pretty much full. In 2005, 6, and 7, we extended this crosswind runway 422, added the parallel taxiway, extended the primary from 5,000 feet out to 7,200 feet, and the parallel taxiway as well, strengthened the primary to be commensurate with its length. There was relocation of some township roadways out here. Point being, you've had a very ambitious airport program since I've been involved. The city staff and the Airport Commission have been very proactive in their dealings with MnDOT Aeronautics and FAA. And MnDOT and FAA have been supportive. They have contributed, I'll say, either 90 or 95% of the cost of these improvements. The current rate is 95. It used to be 90. I should say that all of these federal and state monies spent are aviation user-generated funds. There's not a single nickel of general tax dollars in there. If you haven't flown on a plane, you've not contributed to those funds. So it's a user-generated funding system, and the city has done, I think, an excellent job of levering your local dollars. The feds in the state also recognize Marshall Airport as a economic engine, if you will. The city is a regional economic center. MnDOT did a study some years ago that said the airport generates more than $5 million in economic activity for the region. You have heavy business usage at this airport. There's a misconception that the airport is a place for people with too much money and too much time to play on a Saturday if the weather's nice. No, 2/3 of all general aviation, and general aviation as opposed to buy a ticket on a commercial airline, private aviation, 2/3 of all that is business related, and yours is, I would say, more than most business related. It's a valuable part of your infrastructure. The city has also been trying to establish scheduled service. There's a void in the system, if you will, for scheduled airline service, and I suspect Glenn has elaborated on that. Regardless, scheduled service or no, this area is full. There's room for 1 more T hangar, a couple of small private hangars, but there have been a couple of times somebody had proposed putting a large hangar in this area, and you're just flat full. You can't do it. So we looked at the city. We looked at maybe expanding over here or up here. This east quadrant, I'll call it, probably makes the most sense. It connects to Madrid Avenue, and so this is the concept, at least, for development of that east building area. And you need room for 4 more hangars to sustain the benefit that the airport provides and expand on that economic impact. So that was a little history. This is the east building area. Phase 1 would be a bridge. This is an extension of Madrid Avenue. That's a bridge over the Redwood River Diversion Channel. It would involve this little loop roadway and utilities to that area. That's what the Airport Commission and staff had put in their 2009 capital improvement program. MnDOT and FAA were here in November, meeting with the Airport Commission and the staff to talk about CIP programs and explain what each party is doing. FAA has a priority matrix for their funding. This did not come out high on their priority matrix. They are more interested in safety or security or a number of issues in development of a new building area doesn't crank out high in their formula. Somewhat subjective formula. MnDOT, as you are aware, is financially strapped, and so their funding is limited as well. But you gotta be ready, and you gotta start getting your ducks in a row. So last September, we submitted those things: the bridge, the roadway, and the utilities in the programming documents. You got to get these CIP attachments, programming documents into FAA. It involves justification for the work, cost estimate, program sketch. There's an environmental checklist. We envision the environmental issues here might be not so much, not so great. FAA has since informed us that we need to do an environmental, I should say the city needs to do an environmental analysis, not only of these short-term items, but of the build-out of this whole, 22 acres or thereabouts. So that is something that the city should be thinking about to get ready. Okay, the federal funds are, of low priority. State funds are scarce. There's talk about stimulus packages, and you'll need to get environmental clearance at some point for that to happen. Glenn has a separate RFP for design of that bridge. Again, being ready in the event that a stimulus package does appear. Okay, enough of that. Contract status. We, at Glenn's request, we provided a general services agreement, and it's just an agreement between TKDA and the city that we will serve you, to give some legal conditions, this, that, and the other. There are no projects identified. There are no dollar amounts identified. That contract can stay in place as long as you choose. You can terminate it at any time for any reason or for no reason. It's just a vehicle that would be in place. And then for each individual request the city makes, we would provide a project-specific authorization for whatever it is. Immediately, it would be project formulation for this. It would be for the environmental assessment for this, and it would be for the revisions to the airport layout plan to reflect this. So all to support the east building area and whatever else the city wants us to do. So if our reselection was confirmed, the next step at perhaps your next council meeting, we would present a specific authorization within the framework of the general services agreement for that work. So that's it in a nutshell. I guess I would try and entertain any questions you might have.
Very good, thank you. Mike?
It's not a question for Lyle. Glenn, can you back that up one slide? One of the big advantages of TKDA and the experience they have, for example, and Mike was involved. I remember when we were asked to go out and look at the flooding on that township road that was caused by us at the airport. Can you point that out with a... Yeah, there were some houses up there where water was basically getting ready to run in the basement when we went out there and looked. And we got them involved. So they have been involved to the point of they know which way the water's flowing. This east project won't affect it, but at some point, that may come back up as an issue because there is a fall problem with getting the water out of that area.
The area that I remember having issues with water running over land was just west on 19, over land that came down here and backed up around this area.
Well, this was on that.
Up here? Yeah, that was before.
So TKDA has been involved way back to how do we get that water drained and over to the diversion channel. So it's nice to have that kind of background and knowledge with the company we hire and work with.
So we would recommend authorization for this development agreement upon review by Dennis Simpson. He did get a copy of that last week. I don't know if it's been reviewed yet, but upon review with Dennis's office.
I would move the authorization to enter into the agreement.
Second.
Motion by Mike, seconded by Charlie. Discussion?
I will say that these scheduled billing rates seem very reasonable. For this,
Reasonable.
yeah, for the services provided.
Oh, wait a minute, those are the ones we changed that he doesn't know about yet. Oh.
Yep. Very good. I would also add, Lyle, that council benefits not only from your expertise and your involvement over the years, but also in your communication to the council through the staff too, and your presentation tonight was very helpful, so thank you.
And I think the reason that extension went so well with all the, Lyle was here literally every week during that project to meet with the concerned farmers, with the contractors, with everyone. That project went very smoothly as compared to potentially what it could have ended up. But that was because of the way they handled and worked with the contractors and the people involved. They did an excellent job.
Four townships involved up there.
You know.
This was a remarkable effort in just terms of time. From the time we began the planning and environmental, I think that runway was open in 2.5 years, which is surprising.
Very good.
It speaks to everybody involved in not just me.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Agenda item number 10, consider the change order, the final, and the acknowledgement of the final payment application for project Y26. This is a Heritage Place Improvement Project. Glenn?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This one as well is, the majority of this project is special assessments, majority of it to one property owner. There are I believe two other property owners involved with some minor costs on the entrance. We would recommend approval and acknowledgement of the final payment.
Any questions from the council? If not, is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Dan. Discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item number 10, this is the Matt Bus Garage project. We have 3 items to consider here. First is the change order and final payment application to Bladholm Construction. Second would be the TSP final change order. This was added to the agenda. And then third would be to consider the final payment application to TSP Incorporated. Once again, Glenn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This one, everything here is kind of together in one package. And first of all, if you are on 11-1 under background information, where it says that the first line change order number, just change the number 5 there to 6. It's correct up above, but just change the number 5 to number 6 in the first line of the background information. After that information, the reason this is coming forward to you now is that there was a considerable discussion about liquidated damages on the project. And a lot of discussion with the contractor and the negotiations of the amount. And so the amount of the additional work that anyone had with the project needed to be covered under liquidated damages. And we do have a liquidated damages portion of the contract that is a certain dollar amount per day. And then when we identify all of the extra costs involved with the project, then those are the ones that we actually come to recommend to you to agree upon for actual liquidated damages. And in this case, that amount is $4,500, and all of that money then is included in the change order to TSP. With Marshall Area Transit being involved with the discussion, they indicated that there were no additional expenses by Marshall Area Transit in the extension of the time frame involved with extending the completion date of the project well into the summer. They had their lease already in place. They were operating out of where they were. They didn't need to move at the time. There was no additional expenses by Marshall Area Transit. However, the city's involvement with TSC. We are the contracting entity with TSP for Marshall Area Transit. And our responsibilities on the project were to get all of the inspection done in accordance with the contract, which took an extended period of time after the original project was supposed to be complete. After discussion with TSP, that amount was negotiated at $4,500. So you can see a deduct in the contract with the general contractor in the amount of $4,500, an increase in the TSP agreement of the exact same amount to final out the project, and we would recommend approval of both of those items, acknowledgement of final payment.
Mike?
I guess I'm a little bit confused. The project got drug out longer, so there was $4,500 on a per-day basis for overrunning the contract time.
There's actually more than that on a per-day
Okay.
basis.
But TSP did the same amount of work irregardless of whether it was completed on time or not.
But that's
They
not-
should have been.
Yeah, that's not true.
Then,
They had-
okay, tell me
okay,
what was
They had
wrong.
to come back several times during the checklist time. Let's say there was a list this long of things that weren't complete. So a week later, they would come back and inspect the things that were done. And this is the length of the things that weren't done, and they had to inspect those things. It brought them back to the project site several different times after the completion date to get that work done. So many more hours were spent. Now, the closeout documents that happen at the end of the project is not extra work. So the as-built construction, the final paperwork for a final estimate, those things are not included as additional project time. But significant amounts of time for inspection from, I'll say, May 1st all the way to the final completion date of the seeding that was done in the late part of the year.
But
So
if they
a lot of extra
would,
work.
if the project would have been completed on time, they would still had to have done all those inspections at
They
some
would have-
point.
They would have had to have done before that time was spent, and they would have been on site doing that inspection when everything else was going on. That's correct. This was additional time past the completion date that they shouldn't have had to be there.
But I think along the lines that Mike's talking about, whose responsibility is that it was not done? Is that the
Contractor,
city's? And
the
contract-
contractors
So-
in its entirety. And that's why it comes off his contract. Because it's the contractor's responsibility to get the work done. It's not the contract with TSP is an inspection/observation contract where they look and see what the contractor is doing, how he's doing it. Yes, it does conform with the specifications or not, and does not direct the work. The inspector, observer does not direct the work. Certainly, they understand that it should be getting done, and where are the materials, and when are they coming, and coordinating there's an electrical contract, a mechanical contractor, and a general contractor, coordinating that between the contractors. But it's a general contractor's specific duty to get it done by a certain date. And if it's not, they're responsible for overtime charges.
So then, as you have this inspector on site doing this,
Uh-huh.
what additional expense does your department occur because of this?
We have additional expenses, but not to the tune that, we allow this TSP contract to do the job that they're supposed to do. So while we look over their shoulder and we call them up and say, how's it going out there? How come this isn't done yet? Those types of things. It's just general oversight and supervision, and we did not charge time against the general contractor to do that.
Why?
We could have. We didn't. We didn't. It wasn't significant amount of money. It's one of those things where you work with the local contractor, no matter who it is, to get the job done. And the only thing that we're recommending is the payment of the excess inspection time from TSP against the general contractor.
So in summary, the final payment to the general contractor would be decreased by the amount that would be increased to the inspection contract under TSP.
And maybe
And,
Dennis could comment on that, in that we have a dollar amount in the contract, but
Right.
this is what we considered actual physical increased costs.
Right. Even though your contract talks in a per-day liquidated damages amount, you really can't collect that. You still have to prove actual damages caused by the delay. And that really, from the general contractor, they were fortunate that there were not additional charges or costs incurred by Marshall Area Transit. Had they had additional costs, that could have been further damages that could have been deducted from the general contractor. But apparently, as Glenn said, they were covered. They had places to store their vehicles. They didn't need to be in there on time. But so we actually look at actual out-of-pocket loss incurred by the delay, not the per dollar figure in the contract.
So when we get to the point when we consider action on these, because of the order of things, we'll handle these in separate motions. Other questions for Glenn? If not, I'd entertain a motion to consider the change order and acknowledge the final payment application as described with Bladholm Construction Incorporated.
I'm going to move to approve that, not that I totally agree with the whole thing, but I think it's probably the best that we can do at this period of time. So I'll move approval of 11A.
Second.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Charlie. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Jane, you have that vote? Then we'll consider the TSP final change order.
Again, I think those two are tied together. It's a pre-drawn conclusion. I'd move for approval of the final payment to TSP.
The
Or
change order is
The
what
change order, excuse me.
Second.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Charlie. Discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. And then the third item under this agenda would be the consideration of the final payment application to TSP. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Charlie. Discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Agenda item number 12. Consider the award of proposals for professional engineering services for the economic stimulus projects. Two projects, the Trunk Highway 23 multi-use pedestrian underpass, and second project would be the Madrid Street Bridge. Glenn?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a couple of projects that we've included in our federal stimulus project requests. And I'll give you a little history of this project. This is one of the 5 projects that the Chamber Transportation Committee worked with the city and the county, the university, the school system, the Economic Development Group for identifying 5 projects along Trunk Highway 23 that were either safety-related or transportation-related projects. And in conjunction with MnDOT, MnDOT's got 2 projects in this vicinity, one coming up in 2009, which is from Amoret Street, just north of the high school, north to Cottonwood, a fairly significant project, and the second one in 2010, which includes the section from Amoret Street all the way to Russell. That is intended to be a asphalt mill and concrete overlay project, and could establish a long-term project that would be difficult for us then to proceed with this project after that project is complete. This project involves a pedestrian underpass project rather than an overpass, and like I said, would be difficult to do once that concrete was put in, just for cost. So this is one of the two stimulus projects that we put in for MnDOT. It's called a bridge project, even though it's an underpass and box culvert structure. We had a conceptual design only here. That showed a double box culvert, but that was just a concept. We'll review that with our proposed professional services contract. You can see in the action recommendation that we have for you tonight is a proposal to authorize entering into an agreement with Bolton Mink of Mankato to provide those engineering services for design of that underpass facility in an amount not to exceed $69,800. And we put subject to discussions with MnDOT concerning the abilities to construct the project in coordination with the MnDOT resurfacing project on Trunk Highway 23 and subject to legal review by City Attorney Dennis Simpson. The reason we wanted to say that is because we've been working with MnDOT on this project. We'll meet with Bolton and Mink tomorrow with MnDOT upon your approval of this agreement. And prior to entering into the agreement with them, have an understanding with MnDOT that, yes, it is possible to design and have that ready prior to the 2010 reconstruction of Trunk Highway 23. There's no reason for us to put this kind of money into a design project that we both don't agree that there's a potential for that project to get built. So that's what you have in front of you today is that I think we should handle these two separate.
Okay. Thank you, Glenn.
Is that recommendation?
Questions on this recommendation? To recommend Bolton and Mink do the basically pre-design and the coordination so that this project could be included if funds are available in the bid letting that MnDOT would do for the Highway 23 reconstruction this fall, would be the bid letting. Questions for Glenn?
Outside of construction jobs, how does this supply economic stimulus to the city of Marshall?
Okay. That's a good question because we've been taking a look at, what really does that facility provide. Number one, we have a 2009 bike path project that comes around the north side of the city that is being paved this year with a construction project that will tie into Trunk Highway 19 if this facility doesn't get built. We want to make sure that we have pedestrian connectivity between the west side of Trunk Highway 23 and the east side of Trunk Highway 23. You're also aware of the activity that's going on with the Amateur Sports Commission and Schwann's Development Company in the development of future projects in this area. It's a vital pedestrian link between these two sides of Trunk Highway 23 in that it really is the only unobstructed type of crossing that we may have. If this doesn't get installed, all of the pedestrian traffic will have to take place at Trunk Highway 19 or up at Amoret Street at grade crossings. It's very difficult to do that. And when this is developed, whether that's for Amateur Sports Commission, which is the intent, or commercial development in the area along 23 and Highway 19, that provides that connectivity with our trail system and the educational facilities that we have in the community. We fully expect over the next 20 years for the area to the north and east of the school to develop in piecemeal fashion as well, similarly to how the area around this school developed over the last 20 years. Yes, it does take some time, and yes, it takes developers or owners of the property around that to acknowledge that that is a good area for development. But as far as economic development goes and a part of the economic stimulus, this certainly is one that will provide that connectivity between the two facilities for that increased economics to occur, even though it is just pedestrian. That's the intent of it. We also would intend to use it for something like, if you're, I always like to use Hell's Pals as the example, but that sort of transportation that could evolve between the sports facilities up on this side and the sports facilities here. Maybe it's going to be equipment and teams going back and forth across there and getting on a shuttle bus that's pulled by a four-wheeler, for instance. Okay?
Okay, other questions?
Glenn, where does the money come for this? I mean, if we get a grant, I realize it's paid for. But if we don't get the grant, we have money into this project. Where does that money come from? I don't remember it being in the budget, so it's...
No, it has to be involved with a specific project development cost that's involved with the bonding for the construction funds. Okay, that's where it comes from, and payment has to come back out of that bond fund. Okay, in this case, the intent is for the economic stimulus projects, 100% of the construction money is covered, but you have to have the plans and specs available, and that's the local cost. In a general project, if this was a MnDOT project, it would be a 70-30 project. And the estimate for this project alone, it was about $2.5 million, of 30% of which would have been the local share and funded out of that construction fund. It would be our intent to initiate then these construction funds once we know that we're going to be getting them. We wouldn't, like I said, we wouldn't want to go forward with these unless we had a pretty good chance of, number one, getting funding, but certainly approval by MnDOT that it could be coordinated with their project. Yes, it's...
But it could also be a 429, couldn't it?
It absolutely is a 429 eligible expense.
So either way, it would be construction funds that would be generated from projects from within your department.
That's correct.
Question. Other questions for Glenn? If not, I'd entertain a motion pertaining to this project.
You looking at doing the pedestrian underpass one first
That's right.
individually?
Yeah, item A.
I'd move to approve that.
Second.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Mike to approve the entering into the agreement with Bolton and Mink for the preparation of engineering plans and documents for the pedestrian underpass at Highway 23. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. And then the Madrid Street Bridge, which we have already had a nice introduction to this. Glenn?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. This one includes the development of the bridge facility at this location. And this is another interesting project in that we did apply for the MnDOT economic stimulus funding for this project, but we have also included it in the MnDOT aeronautics economic stimulus funding as well. It's part of our capital improvement project. TKDA is aware of it, made a great presentation in the request. We did send out requests for proposals from 4 different engineering firms for this project, 3 on the previous project. They scored the highest on the proposal and would be ready and willing to bring this forward, either through MnDOT or through MnDOT Aeronautics for stimulus. Same thing there. If it's done under MnDOT, we provide the plans and specs. In this one I give you a stronger recommendation, if there is such a thing, on going forward with plans and specs, because we're going to build this one at some point in time, and we need to have plans and specs on the shelf. We will need to address that crossing at some point in time, whether or not it's on economic stimulus. And the least participation, I'll say, is 95% federal. 95.5. And the most participation would be the 100% federal, and then we provide the design costs. So this one I certainly am excited about, because I think it's something we absolutely will be building for the development of this area in the near future.
Questions for Glenn?
A question, Glenn, that say that we don't do that this year, and you got this on the shelf. How long is that shelf stable before that plan is no good anymore and you have to redo the whole plan?
The only thing that might have to change is the environmental. Lyle, any comment on the length of time the environmental would last? I would think in this, knowing what this area looks like, and knowing the history of that site, and you guys have been here a lot longer than I have, but I don't believe that there were any gas stations on that site. I mean, one of the only sites in town, maybe. But I don't see any issues other than the possibility of some wetland mitigation, that the whole area is tiled. As a matter of fact, we did some tiling improvements when we did the crosswind runway for that. But that's about the only issue I can see. And Lyle, any updates that you would think, even if it sat there for 5 years?
I don't know why the design of the bridge would become obsolete or unusable. To answer your question, how long would the environmental take? There's something to the agencies, la-di-da. Some months, 3 months. What Glenn, let me say, I'm not the bridge guy. I would remain as the client manager, because I don't want them souring my relationship with the city.
They had a little expertise when they were involved with the I-35 bridge replacement. They had some expertise in bridges.
Yeah. What was my
The length of time.
Glenn had suggested, once we get into the authorization for the environmental assessment, et cetera, he would like to have a come to Jesus meeting with MnDOT and FAA and remind them of the time constraints we're up against here, and smooth that approval and review process.
Environmental reviews are typically 3 years in duration, right?
Well, they usually take more time than what we would normally have on an economic stimulus project. Right. And that's the issue when you get a categorical exclusion for the I-35 bridge. This one doesn't look too bad. That was different, I understand. I don't want to make light of that process.
Any other questions?
And I'm assuming, Glenn, that now that you have previously approved the general contract with TKDA, that this now becomes the specific contract put in place to address the design specifically. And I know that Assistant Engineer Shane Waterman delivered to me late last week the proposed contract to take a look at.
And this one just happened to fall outside of the one that we approved just earlier. It was a proposal that we had to get requested prior to our ability to approve this contract. So this proposal was separate from, and we could have selected one of 3 other engineering firms for this job. Like we can for the rest of these, but it just so happened that TKDA was the highest selected firm for this solicitation as well. So the answer is yes and no, but yes.
Make a motion that we go ahead with this project.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Dan. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. And just briefly, Glenn, you may want to comment on this too. I think you and I have been in a number of meetings together and separately over the past several weeks in regards to the economic stimulus proposals. So hopefully we're well positioned when and if the funding does become available for these as well as potentially other projects.
It's going to be a real scramble for all the engineering firms across the state for what's happening with economic stimulus and the timing that they have to be delivered and the commitment of these firms with us to do that work. It's a lot of work in a short amount of time to get these projects out the door. And it's being divided up into types of project, bridges, roads. Roads are being divided up into asphalt, concrete, enhancement projects, sidewalks, signage, guardrails, and then separated out into areas of the state, not just metro, not just the northern tier. So there's a lot of scrambling going on with this economic stimulus, and hopefully we can provide really what it was meant to do, stimulate the projects that can be utilized to stimulate economic activity for the region. And this is by far one of the best ones we have.
Okay, we'll move on then to agenda item number 13. This would be the authorization to advertise for bids for 2009 overlay projects as well as 2009 steel coat projects. We have the memo from Glenn. Anything to add to that, Glenn?
No, you'll see that we have a significant amount of projects that are over and above our budget. And so we include them, and then when we get the bids in, we'll see how far we can go. And we'll certainly have to review that as far as, what funds are going to be available for this year. We base it upon $250,000 total for the overlays and seal coats, and you can see that we'll have to pick and choose after the bids come in.
Any questions for Glenn? Not, is there a motion?
Move the authorization to advertise for bids.
Motion by Mike, seconded by Mike. Discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 14, consider the resolution that would approve the plans and specifications and authorize the advertisement for the bids for project Y05. This would be the Village Drive Improvement Project. Once again, Glenn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You can see on the screen that this is the extent of the project from Birch Street on Village up to Fairview Street. The street itself is in terrible shape. The water main is in disrepair, a lot of breaks. The sanitary sewer, same issues. We will be doing spot repairs of the sanitary sewer system, but generally a reconstruction of the street section, much of the curb and gutter, and the water main as well. So any questions that you might have, I can Shane is here. We have the plans and specs with us tonight. So one thing I should mention, we are going to be having a public informational meeting. That'll be, Shane, help me out, next Thursday. Next Thursday, we're trying to set that up at Marshall Municipal Utilities at 5:30, both for the Village Drive Improvement Project and also for the Legion Field Road project. So we'll be sending out notices to all property owners along there to explain it, the project, and if they've got any specific requests that we can incorporate that into the project before we bid.
Okay. Any questions for Glenn? If not, is there a motion for the resolution?
So move. Second.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Mike. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 15 is the council member board liaison reports from my part, and also Councilmember Ritter attended the Economic Development Authority meeting today. They met at noon today. The number of items, in fact, the related to the Parkway Housing Addition, related to several potential economic development projects and potential application to the Community Reinvestment Fund. And because of that, we would anticipate that there's a high likelihood that we'll have a special meeting prior to our next meeting. Regional Development Commission has not met since our last meeting. Jenny?
The Human Rights Commission meeting was canceled for last month. The library board met last night, and Ben was there, and we discussed LGA cuts, not only for this year, but for 2010. We also discussed designated donations and the corporate spelling bee that's coming up.
Larry?
Community Services met last Wednesday. Looked at the design of the north and south bike trails coming together and how that's going to be incorporated this summer. That project should be a go. Looked at the design of the downtown parks. Also, in the next 8 weeks, there'll be 6 basketball tournaments in town on different weekends. And one other weekend, there's a junior wrestling tournament that'll be in town. So 7, and I think that starts the end of February. 7 of the next long-term weekends are probably going to be full of little kids running all over town, which is great.
Charlie?
Cable Commission met. They are working on the rate structure that was requested by Ways and Means for how they're going to charge out, what they're going to charge out. And they also had a little discussion about what the studio design might look like if it goes in the Bistro building or the Market building or whatever they want to call that building. It's next to the Bistro. And that's the only one I have to report on right now.
Okay. Mike?
Hospital Board and Utilities Commission both meet later this month.
Okay. Mike?
Yes, airport we talked about earlier. Development has not met. Merit is canceled for this month, and we do have a Ways and Means Committee meeting scheduled, but not in Illinois yet. So that's it.
And Dan?
EDA and then the Housing Commission, I was at that last night. So.
Agenda item number 16, staff reports from the city administrator. Ben?
Thank you, Your Honor, members of the City Council. The upcoming next council meeting, I'll have a recommendation to move forward with a agreement with Springstead to do an updated tax increment financing review of those districts. The last time they did it was in 2006, and we want to take another look at the revenues and expenses coming in, as well as the decertification dates. And the use of the funds to pay for that comes within the tax increment funds themselves. But just want to give you a heads up that we will be doing that, taking a look at bringing that forward. We were going to have budgets handed out tonight. Ran into some formatting issues, so Kathy Lee is planning on delivering them tomorrow out to the council members and then distributing them out to the department heads and things after that. Trying to work with balancing her other things as well as not using any overtime to complete that. So those will be coming out in the near future. In case you have any questions, tomorrow they should be delivered to your residence or business. Next meeting as well, I would anticipate, we have been having ongoing union discussions, and not to get any particular details this evening, but next meeting I would anticipate having a closed meeting negotiation session that I would be presenting to the City Council, updating that, as we do have all of our unions are open for this year, but we are hoping, even in these difficult times, to be able to come to a settlement with our unions for 2009 and or beyond that. This Friday would anticipate, as well as we've been working on getting the format finalized and summaries put together on the council updates on the just general operating things that are going on, and expect to get that this week. The Personnel Committee is not scheduled, but we will be scheduling a meeting on that in the near future. Sheila and I are wrapping up our research. We've probably got one more meeting between the two of us before we're ready to do a presentation. So I would expect that you'll be getting notice that we'll be ready to schedule that with a Personnel Committee in the very near future. Those are my main updates, other than if the spelling contest, I would bet that if the council wanted to be a team, I bet I could generate enough donations from within the city employee groups. If you guys would be willing to step up to the plate, I bet we could do that fundraising. I know I'd chip in, but anyway, if you're interested, let me know. We are thinking about getting a team together. I haven't heard any more updates recently, but we had a little email sent out on that effort. So with that, I'd open it up to any questions the council might have, but those are just some brief updates.
Any questions for Ben? Okay, we'll move on then to council member individual items. Jenny?
No.
Larry?
Community Services looking at doing summertime part-time help. And as we're looking at what we're going to have as far as community programs for the summer, I think we need to take a serious look at what we're going to do with part-time help before we go out and hire a bunch of part-time help for the summer and then have cutbacks. I think we need to look at where we're going to go with that. I'm not exactly sure where we need to address that with, but it's something I think needs to be looked at, and that's all I have.
Okay. Charlie?
I got two items here. First item is with, excuse me, the trip that we took down to Rochester, and we went down and looked at the sports facilities. One of the things that they said there was, that they really stresses the fact that they work together as a city, as a county, as a school district. The college works together, private industry. They all work together and function together for the purpose of getting goals done. And I was informed this week that when they put the bylaws together for the Sports Facility Commission, they left the county out of it as far as having a designated person on that board. And I just would encourage us to take a look at that, or maybe talk to our staff and say, we want a regional center. The county's part of our region. They should be involved in this conversation. If we want to be a part of the airport, we might want to include them in the discussions of the other stuff. It's time that we start tying the two groups together and start doing more stuff together as a city, as a county, and the school districts, the college, get us all into one focus, go in one direction, so we're not wasting each other's money by duplicating services.
Ben, would you follow up on that? And
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Steve Ritter, the county commissioner, is a board member on that group. I can't say he's been particularly active, but.
He was an advisory member on that, and now that they took up the deals, they excluded him, so since they excluded him, he stopped coming. So you might want to check that out, because when there was no place for him, he stopped coming and being a part of it, but he'd love to be a part of it. The county would love to be a part of it if they could be included in the bylaws to be a part.
Yeah, I'm willing to check on that. He does receive the notices to all the meetings, and I assume.
But he would like to be an official, or have a county have an official spot on that board.
Oh, okay. And the bylaws are not finalized, and so
Well,
we can.
that's why we want to address it now.
Okay.
Have input.
The second issue that I would address is this, is that in light of the same thing, the county right now is looking for help or looking for an EDA person, and I would like to hear how the rest of the council feels about it, but personally myself, I think a county of 25,000 people doesn't need to have multiple EDA directors. I believe that, you go to the Twin Cities and they serve several 100,000 people with one EDA director, that we could have one EDA director that could be sponsored by the city and the county together, and we could work together again on that, sharing expenses, helping in times like now that are pretty trying times financially for both of us, the county and the city. And I would like to request or hear what people would like to have to say about, as a council, setting up a two-member commission from the council and a two-member commission if the county would like to join us in conversations, to get together and start looking at how we might be able to fit that task into one person, into one area that we both would be a part of and share the costs in.
Mr.
So I'd open
Mr. Sano, this was proposed about 4 years ago.
I wasn't here 4 years ago, but
With having the Lyon County Development Corp. be the group that hired. So yes, I agree with it. And we currently have an ad hoc committee that is 2 council members, myself, and I believe, Dan, it's you, and 2 commissioners that we only meet if we want to have something to discuss. Phil Nelson and believe Goodenell. So we could get on the phone and just call the four of us together, and at least sit down and see if there's any interest?
I think that would certainly be appropriate to have that group reconvene. I know the EDA had a similar conversation today, and in fact, at the request of the facilitator with the Economic Development Coordinator, suggested that we not make our contribution to the Enterprise Development Corporation until that group really knows where it's going.
Well, I would,
And that was at the county request. That came from Denise.
That's right.
well, I would like
Okay, that's
to
fine.
have Dan and I can call Mark and Phil Nelson, and we can get a time together to sit down. The last time we met was on that surface water thing at the fairground, remember?
And you'll,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council too, just as an update, there has been correspondence going on kind of behind the scenes too. I have met with the county administrator to discuss the future of the Development Corporation's plans and interest there. I've also met with, and Mark Hansen's been in discussions with the interim director, Denise Pfeiffer, who's helping out. She is not going to be around long-term, but she is kind of laying out a framework for the county and the Development Corporation to kind of take a strategic look as to where they've been, where they might be going, and whether, in evaluating the different ways of providing economic development services, whether it's through the Development Corporation, whether we ought to merge together or work together more directly, either in a combined organization, whether it ought to be a county EDA. It sounds like they're going to be taking a look at that again, and she's helping to build that framework. Part of my recommendation was what you talked about, is to get feedback from not only the county commissioners, but marshal representatives in the small towns in the area too, to find out what's worked, what hasn't, and could we work together in different ways. So some of that's going on. I think that's good feedback too, that we want to be involved in those discussions.
But I would like, and last time with the surface water thing, that went on for months. Glenn, remember that? And I think it'd be good for the couple of the policy makers just to sit down and find out if there's any interest. That last time we sat down in a half an hour, we came to an agreement.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure that something moves forward, and if there's stuff going on under the scenes, that's great, but let's put it above the scenes and start making something happen and looking more unified than we are. Thanks.
Dan,
Nothing.
Mike?
Yes, Eleanor and the council passed an ordinance back in about the middle of December, and boy, we were really pushing to get her done by January 1st, and that was a change in our liquor license. And as part of that, we had a over 30% and under 30%. To my knowledge, as of today, there's been no form developed, and not one of the 13 liquor holders have filled out that form, and the police have been out actually trying to enforce an ordinance that we can't enforce. Now, I want some answers.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the council, I can answer that the ordinance was passed. The liquor license holders have not yet received any notification. The police, on one case, did do an enforcement action unknowingly that we have not yet provided notice. So our follow-up from that is that until we provide appropriate notice to the liquor licenses explaining the process, working out how they have to meet the new requirements of the code, it's unenforceable. And so that's how we're proceeding with it at this point. We are working at developing the forms based on the ordinance that is passed, but that is correct that as of today, we are not enforcing that ordinance that was passed by the city council.
And police is aware of that?
That is correct. There is no current enforcement going on related to that. I've had some discussions with one owner in particular saying we're working on it, on getting the notice out, but we don't feel it's fair to them to do any enforcement if they haven't been given proper notice to provide an exception to it. So we're working to get it done, just on getting all the day-to-day things completed, and so we are trying to get that finalized.
Why would it take about 6 weeks to design a one-page form? I could do that probably in 45 minutes max. if we put an ordinance in that's supposed to go into effect January 1st, then we should take steps that are necessary to make a form that will allow us to do that. And it hasn't been done, and it's February 10th. Maybe somebody thought it's next January 1st that we're going to start enforcing this ordinance. That's it.
Mike,
No worries.
let's move along then to review of pending agenda items. Any comments on the pending agenda items?
One comment on the stormwater planning that's scheduled. We'd originally talked about March 10th, or I'm sorry, March 3rd for the council presentation of the stormwater presentation of the industrial park. However, we are considering February 24th prior to the city council meeting. Because we're focused on that issue only, we think we can get it done within an hour's time, but we want to make sure that it works within your work schedules, you know, since it would be at 4 o'clock. And so if you would check your schedules to see if that would work. I don't need an answer tonight. If it doesn't work, then we'll look probably at that March 3rd date.
Can you repeat again what date?
We're looking at the, I don't have a calendar to verify, but I was thinking is the next,
24th?
24th, okay.
24th?
Okay, thanks.
and I see that there is I see there would be a previous commitment that Councilmember Reynolds might have with the hospital board that evening, but,
Utilities, I'm with the utilities in DC.
okay. Oh, you were going to be, you said gone. Okay. Well, we'll work on rescheduling that to a different date then for the council. Maybe we'll keep that March 3rd kind of penciled in, and we'll have Kathy Lee contact you about the scheduling of that. But more information to come. But it will be you've had some preliminary reviews at MMU on that particular item, and we would be looking at kind of the final plan to approve following that presentation.
Okay. Agenda item number 19, the information items, are there for information purposes. There's no comment on the information items. I'll move on to agenda item number 20. This would be the determination by the city council to go in a closed session to discuss the pending litigation related to the MPCA violations. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Mike to go in closed sessions. Discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we will go into closed session following a short